Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is November the 21st, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Sniffles aside, we're hanging tough. We're doing what we can. Let's see. Work was definitely busy. We're in the thick of it. Everybody knows. But overall, it was fine. I will say it was a snowy day. We had like our first snowfall of the day. I mean, it was like a really big flurry that just was kind of going on and off throughout the day. Doesn't look like any of it's gonna stick, but I mean, it was snow. It was cold, wintry mix. So yeah, that made the drive really fun. On top of the fact that I maybe slept 3 hours tops. Yeah, it was a miserable night. Also, I'm sorry, last episode, pretty sure I didn't mention the food I ate, which was pasta, red sauce, salad, bread, yada yada yada. And then I chucked it up. So yeah, there was that. But yeah, overall, fast forwarding back to today, it was good outside of being sick, definitely congested as all get up. I feel like, the Mucinex D is doing a bit of a thing, but it's not really changing my world as it often does. It can only do so much, I guess. Man, I really wish one day in my lifetime we have a cure for the common cold. Oh my gosh, that'll be the shot I'm there for every year without fail. Best believe. Ooh, because I get so many of these things. Um, but yeah, no, really, I'm trying to be positive. So yeah, I'm positive. Food corner was pretty scant. I really just have not been in much of a food mood past 24 hours. I had that big holiday meal. So that just is what it is. I did have an apple. I had some Cheetos puffs, the hot Cheetos puffs. So there we go. We've had some nibbles, and even some gummies, like anything. And these gummies, look, I'm the worst because I'm like just hunting for vitamin C, even though I know that's it's not like I can just cram a bunch of vitamin C in my body and then I'm just gonna feel better. But it's one of those things where it just almost like a placebo effect, and I do think it's probably good to do. So like I'm drinking all this like Minute Maid bullshit that has like 100% vitamin C. I'm like looking at these gummies, like, okay, they got a decent vitamin C count. I guess it won't be too bad. These are essentially just like I don't want to say knockoff gushers because I don't think I'm giving them good credit. I think they're called Black Forest gummies, if I'm not mistaken. But essentially, they're just like gushers. Only they taste more like fruit gummies as opposed to just gushers, which has that kind of artificial flavor, which I don't mind. I'm definitely down to mash on some gushers, but it is nice to have that. This tastes like the fruit that it looks like, right? That's kind of cool. Instead of just eating these like candy coated gem things. um, but yeah, let's see. What else is there really for my day? Is there really anything else I wanted to yap about on my personal news? No, I think we're good. I feel like I got a lot of news to cover, so I'm gonna just go ahead and do the startup. At least attempt to do the startup. Hopefully, it doesn't knock me out, and then we'll get into some news, get into the things that are happening all around the world. All right. Excuse me. From Politico, how Netanyahu's arrest warrant scrambles global politics. The world is getting smaller for Benjamin Netanyahu. The International Criminal Court, or ICC, in The Hague issued arrest warrants today for the Israeli Prime Minister and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant in a bombshell move that has already divided Western nations over how to respond. In a statement, the ICC ordered the pair to be detained to face charges for crimes against humanity and war crimes, allegedly committed in the year of the bloody fighting in Gaza since Hamas's October 7th attacks on the country. An estimated 44,000 Palestinians have been killed in the aftermath, and international observers warn humanitarian aid is being held up from entering the blockaded region. So, I'm just kind of gonna riff this one out for the rest of it. I'm happy about this. This is good news. But the ICC, we've said this before in terms of like when we started talking about this whole process, they're toothless. They don't have any real authority here. It's not like we're going to see Benjamin Netanyahu leave Israel to any of the countries where he probably could get arrested. It's not like he's going to go to America and they're going to fucking do it. Like, at the end of the day, he's probably going to be just like a Vladimir Putin now in that kind of situation where it's like when he goes to make a travel thing, people are going to make a lot of hay over it. Like, oh, are they going to arrest him? And then he's going to get to the place and they're not going to fucking arrest him. And it's going to be a whole fucking thing that, dissolves into nothing. But for the symbolism, for what it shows, that like, hey, internationally, people are saying what you are doing is a war crime. Brother, internationally, you are scaring the hoes. So, I mean, you can kind of take that as it is. Also, Yoav Gallant getting fired and then still taking the hit. Ooh, gotta suck. Gotta suck to suck, brother. But yeah, I mean, it just is what it is. Like I said, it's a bittersweet thing. I'm happy about it, but it's a completion of a thing that has no real impact. It has no real change on what is going on. There's still a genocide going on. There's still an ethnic cleansing going on. So, I don't want to say I'm torn about it. It's just like I would like to see more, personally. That is what it is. But that is what we get for today. I'll take that. A bit of extra news in terms of Netanyahu and just, I guess, Israel, Gaza in general here. From CNN, Netanyahu offers $5 million and safe passage out of Gaza to anyone returning a hostage. This feels like some bad mob deal to me, dude. And I'm, once again, not going to spend too much time on this, but it did feel worth mentioning. And I'm like, while we're in the region, while we're on the subjects, let's just talk about it, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Tuesday offered $5 million and safe passage out of Gaza to anyone returning a hostage. To those who want to leave this entanglement, I say, whoever brings us a hostage will find a safe way out for himself and his family. We will also give $5 million to for every hostage, Netanyahu said. Choose. The choice is yours, but the result will be the same. We will bring them all back. And this feels so empty and hollow. I want to say weeks ago, Netanyahu came out and said, hey, to any Hamas fighter out there, lay down your arms, surrender, and we'll take you in, no problem, whatever. Essentially like saying, hey, if you give it up and you flip, you're going to be good. Surely we aren't going to torture you in our prisons or whatever. Surely we're not just going to put a bullet in your head. Like, I don't know, man. There's something about this that just, one, rings untrue. Or even if it is 100%, he's 100% genuine in this, it's not going to bring about the end that you want. It also is not going to make anyone happy. Like, you have families of the hostages that are very upset about this. They're like, oh, so essentially he's just stalling again. He's just making another thing because he knows that this is not about money. Like, yes, this is about survival. This is about so many fucking things. But if you're a Hamas fighter, you're not really saying, I mean, there's a low chance that you're going to actually have a outcome that brings a bunch of hostages back, let alone you're not bringing back all of them, especially in a situation where you could actually come to the table and negotiate a ceasefire deal. But let's face it, Israel does not want that. And yes, the media, and yes, from Israel, they're going to paint it as like, it's really Hamas. They're just not being reasonable here. All we want is our hostages. No, it's not. You really want to continue this occupation. Down to the point where we've talked about this before with the last time when this shit fizzled out, even though they are saying it's back on or whatever. It's like, no, they're like, no, we need to have like a toehold in like the Delphi region or whatever, because they're going to smuggle in arms and stuff. So we need to be able to have a handle on this. Like, they are making sure that they have their thumb on the scale. They have their hands in and on the region at all times. They're not going to give this shit up. And then they fucking want to add Lebanon to the shit. So, I mean, this isn't probably going to change anything. Granted, if there is any development, someone does flip. You know, I mean, these things do happen. I know there was like kind of, I'm just jumping all around here, but in Sudan, there was an RSF fighter, like a higher up leader or whatever. He flipped, and that was like a big move. There's a lot of shit going on in Sudan, but you know, I don't have that queued up. Kind of just mentioning that on the side here. But yeah, I mean, this was a worthwhile thing I did feel like talking about. But we are, since we're just jumping around, last minute, I decided just to kind of add this whole thing on a riff. Just a bit of Ukraine news with the long-range ATACMS missiles. They've fired at least 6 of them. Ukraine has into Russia, I think into like the Kursk region. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but they are winnowed to more or less focus this shit on that region. Like they got the green light to use them, but it is in limited capacity. Though, in terms of the Russian response, they fired a new ballistic missile at Ukraine, Putin says. I believe it's the I'm getting it wrong, and I'm not going to look it up. I'm not even going to try to use the acronym, but it's a big missile. It's a controversial missile. You're not supposed to use it. You can technically equip it with a warhead, nuclear warhead, I should say, of all things, not a warhead sour, though that would be pretty cool to get hit with. Also, there's another thing to mention that it's been reported that Ukraine launched a Storm, I believe it's called a Storm's Crow missile. I'm getting it wrong, but Storm Shadow, that's what it is, Storm Shadow missile, which it sounds really cool. I'm not gonna lie, that does sound like some fucking shit you'd pick up in like fucking Skyrim or something. But no, it's a missile. It's a UK missile, and they had asked Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the UK, hey, now that you know US has approved the long range missiles, what are y'all doing with the Storm Shadow missiles? You know, are you gonna give them the green light, Ukraine their green light for that? And Keir Starmer's like, I don't want to reveal any of the plans. I don't want to give Putin any heads up. But it seems like maybe kind of on the low, they gave him the thumbs up. Like, go ahead. If Big Daddy America's doing their thing, you can use our shit too. So I think it's a limited thing because they only have so much of them. But the way that I've heard how it works is it's like a bunker buster type of missile. So you got the ATACMS that are long range kind of situation, and you have like these bunker busters in these Storm Shadow things, missiles. So there you go. And then you got Putin and Russia firing the IMCB. I'm just gonna attempt it. IMCB. I think it's the IMCB, Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. ICBM. I don't know why, but I get this confused with like some frozen yogurt spot that I grew up with as a kid, which is like TCBY or something like that. They're not the same at all, but in my head, I think about that ice cream shop whenever I see Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. ICBM. Sure, whatever. I'm probably wrong, but hey, whatever. It's for a correction corner in the future if I figure that out. Anyway, let's get back to what I had planned on in the initial. I just kind of ham-fisted that Russia-Ukraine stuff in there, but you know, it was important. I didn't want to dawdle on that. From NPR, 42,000 crowd New Zealand's Parliament grounds in support of Maori rights. As tens of thousands of marchers crowded the streets in New Zealand's capital, Wellington, on Tuesday, the throng of people, flags aloft, had the air of a festival or parade rather than a protest. They arrived to oppose a law that would reshape the country's founding treaty between Indigenous Maori and the British Crown. But for many, it was about something more, a celebration of a resurging Indigenous language and identity that colonization had once almost destroyed. Now, I kind of want to fast forward here just so I can get the person's name. I believe it is Hannah Rahiti Mapi Clark. There's a picture of her in the article speaking at the protest, but I'm pretty sure it was her I saw. I might be getting that wrong, and it might be someone else. If so, mea culpa. I should have done a little bit more research here. But in New Zealand's parliament, there's a clip of a lady in parliament and a lawmaker, and she starts doing the wish I had this on hand too. I think it's called a haka, but it's like a Maori chant. And it's this whole like actual ritual that you do. But she like rips up this paper, which is this like new equality. I want to put equality in quotations here. Law that this like libertarian Maori lawmaker came up and put up with. I think his name is like David Seymour or some shit. But essentially, she goes off into this chant, and you just have a bunch of people in Parliament also doing it. It's a whole fucking scene. I wish I like had it at the ready or had a link up for it. Once again, my bad. It is the Maori haka. It's rhythmic chants. That's what put me on this story. I saw that when I was scrolling through Facebook, and I was like, damn, hell yeah, let's fucking go. And then to know that there was a whole like Maori march, like saying, hey, we're going to protest the fuck out of this shit. And I'm like, hell yeah. So I'm glad that this whole equality thing that they're trying to do to essentially say, hey, we want to turn back the clock on this treaty that gave you guys rights to kind of balance things out, to kind of give at least some semblance of justice here for the fucking systematic oppression we've put on you. Like, we want to turn back the clock on that and say, hey, we're in 2024. Everything's equal now, right? Everything's cool now. Like, you should just be treated as a citizen. It doesn't matter who you are, all creeds, all color, all lives matter. It's that kind of fucking shit, right? And we've talked about that. We've talked about that sentiment. It is an international thing. As an American, I'm sorry, I just gotta fucking say it straight and plain. I've heard so many fucking white people say this shit to me. I've had so many people, it's like we're 2024, man. Everything's good. Do that slavery shit, that was so long ago. It's like, brother, it's been like less than 3 centuries, if I'm not mistaken. Like, come on now, let's be for real. It's not been that far down the line. At the end of the day, you can't not just fucking blink and say, oh, all right, the racial oppression is done. All the things that we've done to these people that we deemed lesser than us at one point in life. Like, it's all good now, where everything's fine. Like, we don't need affirmative action anymore. And like, that's how people are treating this shit, right? And this is why I always have like a soft spot for this kind of issue. So I felt bad that I even waited days to like wind up covering this shit. But I to also, once again, to my defense, there's been so much news. There's been so much news going on. Like, I really do feel like we have Trump back in action, generating his whole fucking miasma, his stank ass energy. So there's that to deal with. But like, obviously we had the whole election shit that was kind of clogging up the works. And like, now that we're kind of getting back to regular, everything just kind of flooding and flowing again, so we just have a lot of moving and shaking. Let's see here. I'm sure there's more here for me to pull while I'm just dancing in the weeds. Police said 42,000 people tried to crowd into Parliament's grounds, with some spilling into the surrounding streets. People crammed themselves onto the children's slide on the lawn for a vantage point. Others perched in trees. The tone was almost joyful as people waited to leave the cramped area. Some struck up Maori songs that most New Zealanders learn at school. And also, there's this note and this tone throughout the article, too, that they say, hey, like, the people who are out there protesting, they're like, we're doing this for our kids. We're doing this for our grandchildren. And also just the idea of, like, I remember being at this where, like older people, like, adults in this protest are saying, I remember being at these kind of protests when I was younger, and just, like, seeing through time how much stronger we've gotten. Like, it's just all the more reason to be out here and keep fighting and keep doing this shit, so we don't backslide, so we don't lose, ground here. So it's just something that's really, it's admirable. And it's not in this article, but I've seen it in just kind of like in the lead up to this, or just kind of more stuff on the day. You see law enforcement, try to kind of poke their nose in, because there's a lot of solidarity involved in here. Like, there's a lot of different tribes and cultures that are also being represented by people here in these protests. And like, you see law enforcement trying to be like, oh, well, you got some Palestinian stuff in there. Oh, you guys supporting some terrorism. You guys being anti-Semitic over there. Ooh la la. Also, and speaking of anti-Semitic, you have to know that, of course, Netanyahu, of course, Israeli spokespeople and whatnot are crying anti-Semitism from the ICC, which is I hate to say it, but it's a common trope. It is over and over and over again. It's like, if you think we're doing something wrong, you're being an anti-Semite. That has just become the vibe now. It's just become the common practice operation. And you see that here in these protests where it's like they're trying to use that as an end. I've also seen, since you have so many people coming out, there are people who have like motorcycle clubs, but they're also like Maori people. And because they're in a motorcycle club, well, it's like, oh, that's gang affiliated. So now we're going to try to crack down on those people. And it's like, you guys are trying to sit here and make villains out of this. You're trying to find whatever you can. And like, it doesn't seem like they really are, but they're still going to try to make arrests. They're still going to try to break the shit up. But I really hope that, the Maori people continue to, keep their rights in place. You know what I mean? Because it's scary times out here. You know what I mean? Not just obviously from an American perspective, but I've said this before, I'll keep saying it. You really kind of see this social conservatism just all throughout the world right now. It just feels very palpable, very heavy. And, wherever I see people standing up against that shit and not leaning into it, not letting it happen, like, I want to support those voices. I want to, I know I'm not a big platform. I got about 5 or 10 people who listen on an average episode, but I want people to know about this shit to the best of my ability. You know what I mean? That's what it is about for me. So yeah, it was David Seymour. Boo, dude. Once again, man, I hate the motherfuckers who are the ones who are down to sell out. And once again, I'm not talking about doing some shit for an ad read, making a little bit of money here and there. No, I'm talking about saying, hey, you're going to be the tip of the spear to this, once again, systematic oppression that is going to go against and hurt your own people. It's just crazy behavior to me. It does not make sense. I don't see how people, like, it's a stupid thing to say. It's like, how do you sleep at night? How are you okay with that? As a person with anxiety, I gotta know, what's your technique, brother? Do you take sleeping pills? Like how do you do it? How do you square that shit? And then to come out in the protest, like, and get booed, like, I mean, hey, I guess good to stand on business, I guess, brother, but nah, I'm booing you too, bro. I'm hoping you go to Tomato Town as well, brother. Ugh, it's just sad to see. But once again, shout out to all the people that are out fighting for their rights. Hell yeah. Anyway, let's move on to some villains, but let me go ahead and take a water break. I need it. But we haven't even gotten to the hearings yet, and we already have a shakeup. So, a bit of an update there in Trump land. From the Associated Press, Trump chooses loyalist Pam Bondi for Attorney General pick after Matt Gaetz withdraws. So I gotta say, a bit of good news. I'm happy to see Matt Gaetz out of the goddamn running here. Perhaps maybe the most vile, though I will say I've been learning some things about Pete Hegseth, the guy who's supposed to be the defense secretary pick, who's going to replace Lloyd Austin. A few sexual allegations, a bit of a marital impropriety has been alleged against this man. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Gaetz. We're talking about Bondi. President-elect Donald Trump said Thursday he will nominate former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi to lead the Justice Department, turning a longtime ally after turning to a longtime ally after his first choice, Matt Gaetz, withdrew his name from consideration amid scrutiny over sex trafficking allegations. Now, once again, shifting to riff mode, I think the pressure was really on Gaetz because of the whole sex trafficking. It's alleged that you had sex with a minor, like there is testimony, like, and I figured out how the leaks wound up coming out. The women who are involved in these escapades with Gaetz, they don't have any like ill will from what I've heard, but they did at the same time say, hey, we felt compelled since he's going to potentially get this position. And not to mention that they were like subpoenaed by the House of Representatives to come and make the testimony. They're like, yeah, we're going to come and tell the truth. and they've essentially told their story, and then through their lawyer, the lawyer told the story. So essentially, we do have the details out there, but the Republican House decided, hey, we're not gonna divulge it, actually. So we really only have it through, once again, the lawyer or what have you. But I mean, it's more or less on record. We know about it as the public, and that means everyone in the House knows. And when it comes to the actual appointment hearings, that would be front and center. And it was very clear and apparent that there are enough moderate Republicans that, and just probably in general people who don't like Matt Gaetz because he's a fucking asshole, that they would be willing to be a fucking crow in his eye, or be a thorn in his fucking paw, whatever the fuck. And even though, yeah, you should kiss the ring, Trump can make this very difficult for you, it might not be smooth sailing for him. And not to mention, there's a slew of other potentially controversial picks. Like I said, we mentioned Hegseth or whatever, right? So I think for Gaetz, he kind of decided, let's cut our losses, because now I don't actually have to have the review ethics hearing shit come out because it didn't get finished. I quit. I'm gone. I'm a private citizen now. You have no legal merits to actually reveal the information. You're not. So I can just kind of walk into the sunset, do whatever the fuck I want, just be Florida's golden boy. Because it's crazy how much weight this man has in Florida. His dad was like in political power. I think he was like in the Senate. He like flipped some businesses or whatever. And he was just like a darling of Florida. So, I mean, I'm sure he'll be fine, like the whole Ron DeSantis of the world. But, out with the Gaetz, in with the Bondi. I guess we should talk about her a bit. A Trump loyalist. She served on the legal team. I was surprised that, Alina Habib didn't get in, but I read that she was offered a position and she turned it down. So I imagine she just has other machinations. I was surprised by that, I gotta say, just because I find all these people to be vile, disgusting, gross. But I will say that they are at least opportunists. So for someone like Haba to pass up literally like the golden ticket, there's so many like lawyers in her position that have gotten shafted by Donald Trump because it's like, hey man, I'm not really going to pay you what I'm supposed to be paying you. Like, you'll get some kind of money maybe when you get it. Like, at the end of the day, she's just saying, nah, I'm good with what I got. And I'm sure she's going to stay in the circle on the team somewhere. Maybe she changes her mind, but like, yeah, she didn't take the initial offer that she had gotten. I don't remember what it was. But it looks like someone like Bondi gets to step into a vacuum and take this attorney general position. She seems at least maybe a little bit more qualified. But that being said, she does have a bribery charge on her jacket. Not like, she wasn't convicted. I guess it was an accusation, I should say. But I think it was related to like a Trump donation or something like that. I know I should just scroll ahead and find it. Here we go. Bondi was accused by a Massachusetts attorney of bribery over a $25,000 campaign contribution she received from Trump in 2013. Bondi asked for the donation near the same time that her office was being asked about a New York investigation of alleged fraud at Trump University. Yeah, another fun business venture for society via Trump. Love that. In 2017, that complaint was found to have lacked enough evidence to move forward, so they dropped it. This one I love. This was a banger. In 2013, while serving as Florida Attorney General, she publicly apologized for asking that the execution of a man convicted of murder be delayed. Now, I'm going to pause there, because when I first read up to this part, I'm thinking, oh, this might be a little bit noble. Maybe a silver lining for Bondi and one of these fucking vile pieces of fucking crap. But no, let's continue. Because it conflicted with a campaign fundraiser. She said it was wrong, and she said she was wrong and sorry for requesting that then Governor Rick Scott push back the execution of Marshall Lee Gore by 3 weeks. So yeah, she had to make that fucking money, bro. So yeah, could you please just hold up on killing this man? I would like to be there for it, but like, could you just hold up, please? Crazy. I love that. That's such a Republican thing to do. I found that to be cherry on top. No, she earned her gig. That's more or less where I'll leave it there. I know I've talked too long on this. Let's go ahead and take our last break, and we will go ahead and close it out for the day. And it's an update that I definitely did not expect to bring. We are returning to the empire, and I'm not talking about Trump. I'm not talking about some baron. I'm talking about. Oh wait, let me just take the break, and we'll go ahead and get into it. Okay. From the Associated Press, Jussie Smollett's conviction in 2019 attack on himself is overturned. The Illinois Supreme Court on Thursday overturned actor Jussie Smollett's conviction on charges of staging a racist and homophobic attack against himself in 2019 and lying to Chicago police, saying he should not have been charged a second time after reaching a deal with prosecutors. The ruling, which did not address Smollett's continued claims of innocence, was the latest twist in a years-long saga. Smollett, who is black and gay, made headlines around the world after he told police in January 2019 that two men assaulted him in his downtown Chicago neighborhood, spouting slurs, tossing a noose around his neck, and yelling that he was in MAGA country, an apparent reference to Donald Trump's Make America Great Again presidential campaign slogan. The report prompted a massive search for suspects by Chicago police before investigators announced that they believed the attack was a hoax. Essentially, he had paid two of his friends, like entourage, buddy, homies. I think actually they were like fitness trainer kind of situation or something like that, like a blend of things maybe. But he paid them, I think, combined $3,500, and to essentially they drove around, found a place, kind of set it up, roughed him up a little bit, and was like, I've been attacked, I've been hate crimed. Which is a real thing. And that's why at the end of the day, I did not feel sorry about this conviction, about this fucking process. Like, yes, did the fucking prosecution fuck up here? Because there was special prosecution that came through and decided to run this shit. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. I'll read a quote from Justice Elizabeth Rockford. We are aware that this case has garnered significant public interest and that many people were dissatisfied with the resolution of the original case and believed it to be unjust. And by the way, the Illinois Supreme Court ruled 5-0 for this. Nevertheless, what would be more unjust than the resolution of any one criminal case would be a holding from this court that the state was not bound to honor agreements upon which people have determinately relied. They go through, a bit of Smollett's credentials from being on Empire. Also, apparently he was a kid in like the Mighty Ducks movie, if I'm not mistaken. Also, I would not be surprised too if Smollett decides to flip this into a lawsuit, because I feel like he would be justified. Let's see here. The special prosecutor, former U.S. Attorney Dan Webb, said he disagreed with the court's ruling while noting that it has nothing to do with Mr. Smollett's innocence. While I actually agree with that quote about the innocence part, I think Smollett did this. I think he did do this to himself. I think it was a whole fucking thing. For me, the evidence points to that. That's what I believe and feel. He can say he was innocent, all up and down, cry, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. That's cool. But it is wrong that, Kim Foxx essentially said, I don't think we actually have a solid case here. I'm going to drop the initial 16 counts. Now, essentially, there was a lot of public backlash for this decision. And, even the mayor started yapping about it. They were mad. So at the end of the day, that's why the special prosecution is like, okay, we have a fucking case here. We should actually pursue it. But because they entered in to do it this way, it was already dead from the start, at least according to the Supreme Court. So, in that regard, I fucking get it. And at the end of the day, I would like to see justice served here, period. And if the fucking system got it wrong, then Smollett should get off on this technicality. I do agree with that here. Smollett was sentenced to 150 days in jail, 6 of which he served before he was freed, pending appeal, and was ordered to pay about $130,000 in restitution. Chicago officials are pursuing reimbursement of that amount and police overtime through a city civil case. Okay, so they're essentially just going to balance it out. Which, once again, then, if I was Smollett, let's flip a lawsuit. Let's fucking get it all back. Maybe make a net gain. Why not? Because to also kind of go back to it, I'm sure I mentioned it back then. It's been a while. But to me, I think this was something for Smollett to do for clout. And I know that seems fucked up. And once again, that's a smirch on his name to say that, maybe. But, like, it's the only thing I can speculate in reasons to why you would go about this kind of shit. Like, you're feeling like, hey, Empire's doing well, but, like, maybe I'm kind of getting iced out. Maybe it's kind of on the end or whatever. We are on Fox here. So, maybe I gotta start looking towards the future. And, like, maybe there's not that many roles. Maybe I should just kind of get IRL with this shit. Let's just do some shit right now with my homies right here. My little fitness trainer guy. And, that'll give me some buzz. Maybe I can get a pity roll. I don't know. I'm swimming in someone's head in a speculation hat. So I shouldn't, speak out of turn. He did star in a movie, this was this year, The Lost Holiday with Vivica A. Fox. I saw a clip of it. I don't know. It seemed like almost like one of those Hallmark kind of movies, almost kind of vibe. But hey, good to be back in action. Good to be back in acting. But yeah, once again, I in some ways have flipped. I still think he's guilty, but at the same time, if the state fucked up, homie, get your bread. It's time. Flip that shit. But yeah, that's it. That's all I have for today. Not too bad for a long episode, I feel. All right, we got a lot in. We talked about a lot. We yapped it up. Especially my throat feels like sandpaper, so I feel like, hey, we really toughed it out. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. Like I said, I sell out to this level. I'll do an ad read. God, fine. Whatever, But yeah, you become a newsie. I wish I had much bonus content. I don't. I shout you out at the top of the month. It's coming up soon. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Please subscribe to the YouTube. Leave a like. Leave a comment. Do the same on Spotify. That's also helpful there. Sharing is caring on either platform. Any of the platforms you're listening on. Shit. Shout out to my TikTokers. But yeah. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.